As our next speakers come onto the stage, I'd like to tell you that their topic will be our vital connection, the United Methodist Church moving forward. The presenters are Bishop Bruce O. of the Dakotas, Minnesota Episcopal Area, also chair of the Connectional Table and member of the Standing Committee on Central Conference Matters. Bishop Christian Alsted of the Nordic and Baltic Episcopal Areas, member of the Standing Committee on Central Conference Matters, and the Reverend Dr. Amy Valdez Barker, Executive Secretary of the Connectional Table. Please give them your attention.
Welcome to Portland. I want to greet you in the name and spirit of the risen Christ, who is, of course, in the room. Amen? Can you believe that in less than 110 days, many of us will be gathered back in this place for our 2016 General Conference? There will be 864 delegates and thousands of other guests and friends interested in and invested in seeing God at work through the people called United Methodist. The Connectional Table is the body of our denomination charged with discerning and articulating the vision of the church in partnership with the Council of Bishops, and also charged with stewarding the mission, vision, and resources of the church to make disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world. This quadrennium, we have been primarily focused on increasing vital congregations that are bearing fruit in 4 distinct missional foci. We have been working on raising up principled Christian leaders, creating new places for new people and renewing existing congregations, engaging in ministry with, not to, the poor, and stamping out the killer diseases of poverty like malaria. As you already know, and will continue to hear, this alignment and focus has transformed many lives around the world.
At the beginning of the quadrennium, Bishop O cast the vision for the Connectional Table's work as rehearsing the story of our United Methodist connection. As people who are formed and shaped by this story, this has been an incredible gift. I want to give thanks to our colleague Fred Day, who reminded us of the story of our past. We have multitudes of stories that illustrate how God is at work through our entire United Methodist connection. I know a few of you have some stories in mind. Take a moment. Think about that. Our task has been about bringing together these stories into the greater narrative, the stories of today, the story of how God is at work through the United Methodist Church today, through people called United Methodists. We have the opportunity to see all parts of our connection. And as individuals, we are most familiar with our part of the connection, right? Our own stories. We very rarely get to see how the whole connection works together for the sake of God's mission in this world today. If you remember, in 2012, we were given an adaptive challenge that was offered to our church. It was a way of helping us stay focused on the mission of increasing vital congregations throughout our connection and bringing together the ways in which we work together for the good of God's work. Vital Congregations is part of our mission. It's not another program. It's not another area. It is part of who we are and what we're about as United Methodists today. The stories we've gathered help us lift up the common threads of fruitfulness that are happening throughout our communities of faith across the world. Now, I don't know about you, but when I started this job, I started looking at the discipline a little bit more carefully. Anybody ever done that? In fact, if you look at my discipline, it's pretty marked up. But I read over and over paragraph 120. And we all know the mission of the church, right? What's the mission? To make disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world. The second sentence of the mission statement is, local churches provide the most significant arena through which disciple making occurs. communities of faith in their context. That's part of our disciple making. That's part of our mission. This is where we have focused our work on vital congregations for the mission of the United Methodist Church. And the Connectional Table has taken up this adaptive challenge, and we've been experimenting, wondering, trying out new things, adapting, looking for ways in which God is trying something new through the people called United Methodists.
We cannot create vital congregations that bear fruit in the areas of leadership development, new places for new people, and strengthening existing congregations, ministry with the poor, and global health without a vital connection. A vital connection takes into account the complexity of our system, from the local church to the annual conference to our 5 jurisdictions and 7 central conferences to our general church agency. Now, all parts of this complex system are interdependent, and they must be aligned and collaborate in order for the United Methodist Church to have great missional impact throughout the world. The Connectional Table has focused on developing these collaborative relationships because without them, we simply go in multiple directions or find ourselves siloed. We want to invite you now to join this presentation and to take a moment to reflect on some stories of collaboration and partnership that are happening in your part of the connection. Maybe you are in an annual conference that has been partnering with another annual conference to accomplish God's mission. Perhaps you are in an annual conference that is partnered in some way or collaborating with a general agency to accomplish our mission. Or perhaps in your local church has joined efforts with other local churches or a district or a conference to better steward the resources and enhance missional impact. So we're going to give you about 4 or 5 minutes to engage in reflecting about where you see collaboration and partnerships happening in your context that are furthering our mission of making disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world. So this is your part of the presentation. Turn to one another, turn around, find 1 or 2 other people, share a couple of stories, and then we will invite 2 or 3 of our colleagues to share their stories. Friends, I hate to call you back together. You seem to be enjoying the conversation one with another. I'm sure you heard some amazing examples of the vitality of our connection and hopefully some new ways to think about how to collaborate. We've invited a few of 3 of the briefing participants to share with all of you examples of some of the partnerships and fruit that they are bearing around the world. And we're going to begin with Faye Christensen, who's from my conference in Minnesota, to share a partnership experience between that annual conference and a general agency. Faye?
Good morning. It's really wonderful to be here with you. I'm a General Conference delegate from Minnesota to the General Conference. Also, another hat that I wear is co-chair of Commission on Status and Role of Women for Minnesota. Last summer, right before annual conference, CASRO held a workshop on words that hurt, words that heal. It says inclusive language or expanding language. And one of our guest speakers at that conference was Amanda Mountain, who is from the General Conference, CASRO. We also had a musical done by a composer in our conference, and Dr. Barbara Holmes, who's the president of the UTS of the Twin Cities. Well, shortly thereafter, we were asked by the Lay Ministry Action Team, we were asked to do several workshops, all-day workshops, on that same topic. Well, we couldn't bring all these many folks back together again, of course, so we developed the criteria and the curriculum ourselves. we wanted to fulfill the requirement of the advanced course for lay speakers. So while we were working on this, a wonderful thing happened, and that is that God of the Bible was published by General Conference. This was like 2 weeks before our first class on Words That Matter, inclusive language. And so, thank you, communications people. You got the word out very quickly to everybody who registered, and they were able to download it, print it, read it, and bring it with them, and it's free. It's a wonderful resource. God of the Bible is the God that is revealed in Scripture, both Old Testament, New Testament, traditional versions, contemporary versions. We pulled and used the material. It's actually a 5-week or a 5-course study for small groups, and any of you can use this. We pulled out salient points and wonderful facts and beautiful images about God, and we used it within our curriculum to tell the story of how expanding our words about God and humankind can deepen our faith. So thank you, General Conference Cosro, and thank you, Communications and Publications of the UMC, and thank you, Connectional Table, and the connectionalism that we all feel through the United Methodist Church.
Thank you, Faye.
Carolyn Dove is also giving us an example of an annual conference partnership with other annual conference partnerships. Carolyn?
Thank you, Amy. The Louisiana Disaster Relief Ministry was organized in September 2005 after Hurricane Katrina hit the New Orleans area. Reverend Darrell Tate was appointed as the Louisiana Disaster Relief Ministry Director. He utilized IRIS from the program provided by the U.S. Department of Defense for the primary means of communication using email, home phone, and cell phone messaging. The Disaster Relief Ministry works with them and UMCOR when any disaster occurs. Reverend Tate also offers a disaster station relief in a box, so that if you have a disaster in your conference, you can just contact us and we'll send you a box. That box contains manuals, programs, processes, all the information you need to activate your relief for your area. The Louisiana Conference has previously shared this information, and the latest recipient of a box was the North Texas Conference after the Dallas flooding. So if you're interested in a disaster relief box, it doesn't have to be a hurricane. It's a relief box. Contact us. We would be glad to send it to you and share the information we've gleaned so that it makes life easier for you.
Next is Christine Flick from Germany, who's going to share with us a story of partnerships with other United Methodist as well as ecumenical partners.
In 2015, we welcomed more than 1 million refugees in Germany, and there are coming more right now. It's a great challenge for a country with about 80 million inhabitants to receive so many people with dignity and care for them. Most of our local churches are involved, and at the local area, working teams are composed in cooperation with ecumenical partners and social organizations. All this needs a lot of money, and the government doesn't cover all of it. In this situation, our German mission board used an existing fund for the work with refugees established a few years ago. A new campaign started to collect money. UMCOR offered some help we didn't need until now. But there's a special construct in the fund. We help one another with the money. There was more money available as needed in Germany, but in Syria, the work with refugees UMCOR cares for was lacking with money. Therefore, we spent 25,000 euro to UMCOR for the work in Syria. This works vice versa. And together we are able to face the challenges and help people very fast wherever help is needed all over the world. In the meantime, also annual conferences in the US heard of this and got in touch with our bishop or our mission secretary to make donations. Thank you for you all.
Well, we could do this all day. There are hundreds, perhaps thousands of stories of our vital connection that just those of us in this room have experienced. And they're all examples of the hope that's generated by our vital connection. I would like to take a moment now to introduce my colleague, Bishop Christian Alsted. Christian Alsted will be the chair of the connectional table next quadrennium as I transition into the role of president of the Council of Bishops. Would you please welcome Bishop Alsted?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Conversations like these are critical to building relationships across our worldwide denomination. At the heart of our Wesleyan tradition is the value of relationships of accountability that strengthen us as we take part in God's mission of salvation and transformation in the world. No matter whether we gather in conference in each church, in the annual conference, in the jurisdictional conferences, or in central conferences, or every 4 years as the general conference, our purpose remains the same: to make certain that the connection remains true to its calling as we seek to focus on what Christ is doing in the world and to renew and nurture our commitment to take part in God's mission. We believe that Christ is in the General Conference. And when we acknowledge and celebrate Christ's presence among us, no matter what the outcome, we are changed by the power of the Holy Spirit. I've been working with the Commission on General Conference and the Committee on Faith and Order to ground our work in our theological understanding of conferencing. We will reflect more on this afternoon, but for now, let me simply say this. Christian conferencing is not just a time set apart for conversations, but rather it is everything we do at General Conference. We understand Christian conferencing to take place in conversations in the legislative committees and in the subcommittees, around the tables in the plenary hall, in debates, in presentations, in reflections, and not least as we engage in prayer and worship.
Now that you've heard a little bit of where we've been and about our hopes for the 2016 General Conference, I want to take a moment to share with you what we believe, or where we believe God is calling us forward into the next quadrennium and beyond. The Connectional Table has wrestled with the challenges that face our church, and we ourselves have engaged in Christian conferencing around some difficult topics. It is no secret that we were challenged to openly discuss our denomination's impasse around homosexuality in our vastly different cultural contexts. What we are offering to the General Church and to the General Conference is our best thinking at the time about how to find a way, can I say it, through. How to find a way through. You and I we'll all hear more about this later during the briefing from CT members who led our discernment process. We also have addressed what it means to be an authentic worldwide connection in which we value greater alignment of the connection for the mission of making disciples of Jesus Christ, deeper connections throughout the church, and more equitable sharing of our God-given gifts. We want to be a connectional body that lives as interdependent, worldwide partners in prayer, mission, and worship together. In just a few moments, you'll hear more about this work from Bishop Strife, a Connectional Table member and the chair of the Standing Committee on Central Conference Matters. He will be coming to address us right after our break. But before we turn to our break and to Bishop Strife, we have a short video that helps convey how the Connectional Table and other General Church entities have been carrying out the requests of the previous General Conference to better align the pieces of our worldwide church.
In the year 2020, it is predicted that
driverless cars will be on the market.
private companies will have passenger flights to the moon,
Alternative currency like Bitcoin will be widely used.
and the United Methodist Church will have a worldwide structure more reflective of our reality.
As we look to the future, let's remember 2012.
That's when the General Conference instructed church leaders to determine which parts of the Book of Discipline apply to the whole church and which parts can be changed if needed to better accomplish our mission.
Leaders from across our connection have taken on this very complex task, but it's not a quick process.
In the year 2020, we expect General Conference will consider a global, or as many call it, a general book of discipline. The work we're doing now and will continue to do in the next quadrennium is essential if we want to get it right.
The Connectional Table is the church body that brings together leaders to prayerfully discern a vision for the future of our church.
The structure of our church must be built on collaborative work that is happening now throughout our connection. So in 2016, we ask that your vote reflect a commitment to continue this important work.
And here's why. In Portland, we will introduce 2 pieces of non-disciplinary legislation to engage more people from across the church in conversation. These are the General Church Council and the Jurisdiction Process proposals. These align with the formation of a general book of discipline. By voting in favor of this legislation, you will help lay a roadmap to the 2020 General Conference.
We believe what we can accomplish over the next quadrennium will allow all the pieces of the puzzle to come together
Let's work prayerfully.
and purposefully together.
The Council of Bishops, the general agencies, and the Connectional Table are collaborating to stay focused on our mission. Through the work around our worldwide nature, the work around aligning the quadrennial budget, and the work of developing systems for measurable outcomes in vital congregations and the 4 areas of focus, we are putting the pieces in place that will strengthen our capacity for greater missional impact. All of this is to help us focus on resourcing annual conferences, who in turn resource congregations, who in turn make disciples of Jesus Christ throughout the world. This has been and continues to be the work of the Connectional Table on behalf of our denomination. We connect the connection through building relationships, aligning our missional strategies so that we can connect the story of the people called United Methodist. Thank you very much.